good evening and welcome everybody to All's Well That Ends Well. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We've got a wonderful show in store for you. Everything from Byzantine empresses to the Nazi Germany propaganda campaigns to American presidents. We've got a packed show for warm-up. We're going to now welcome onto stage the panelists for this evening. So if you could please put your hands together for our wonderful panelists. That would be great. Their names are Andrew Kerr, Riche Anderson, All right, welcome to stage, everybody. I'm going to let the teams introduce themselves. So if the team on my right could introduce themselves first, say their name and maybe a fun historical fact from their family or about themselves.
My name is Riche Anderson. I found this fun historical fact on the internet. I have my dad's great-great-great-grandfather was a guy called Dr. John Phillip, not no relation, on his grandmother's side, and to cut a long story slightly short, he came over from England and he reported that Cape colonists' behavior towards indigenous people was deserving of strong reprobation, as we do. And actually he went to England and he fought for their rights, and they put an ordinance in place that granted all free coloured persons of the Cape every right to which any other British subject was entitled.
Wow. That's
so that was cool in 1800s. Things went
yeah, but that's
not for points though. So.
that's a definite point.
My name is Andrew Kerr. That's Kerr, and this is a short origin story of where the name Kerr comes from. Kerr is Scottish, but the Old Norse word for Kerr, where it originates from, is KJRR or Kjir, I think, and not 100% sure, which means marsh dweller. Going back to Scotland with Kerr, the Kerr family motto is in Latin "Sero sed serio," which means late but in earnest.
Which is basically Cape Town.
Okay, and then with the team on my left, please tell us a little bit about themselves.
Well, thank you, Stephen, and thank you, good night. Good night. Thank you all for being here. My name is Graeme, and I do not have any family history facts of note. I don't really have a family of note. But if I may, I would like to start with a joke. A historian walks into an historian. May I please start again?
No, sorry. JP.
If you 80 rand, you would have heard that joke. I get it. My name is JP Riche, and I tried very hard to Google family history this afternoon in earnest and haste, or whatever your family motto means. And the only thing I could find out is that like a great-great-grandfather 8 generations ago stole some sheep and shot a policeman. So almost as impressive in terms of, saving the world and, all of that.
Maybe it was an evil sheep.
It was probably a delicious one. So yeah, that's my welcome.
All right, well, thank you all for welcoming yourselves. We're going to crack on with the first round. The first round, as we played in the warm-up, is you can quote me on that. So it's the same rules as before. I'm going to give them, this time, 4 historical characters and 5 quotes from those historical characters, and they need to figure out who said what. Their choices tonight are Edward VIII, Empress Theodora, and Theodore Roosevelt, and Ted Kennedy. Okay? So, yeah, Edwards and Tedwards. And I was in case you don't know who these people are, that was
Isn't that Jude Law?
that was Colin Firth's brother in The King's Speech, his famous role. She was a Byzantine empress, born 500 AD and died 548 CE rather. And then this is Theodore Roosevelt, who was the 26th president of the United States, and he was in power from 1901 to 1909. And that's Ted Kennedy, the brother of JFK and Robert Kennedy as well, and he was a US senator. Just so everyone knows who the people are up there.
Good. Covering things we all knew.
Okay. So now we're going to crack on with our first quote. Our first quote is, "They don't call me Tyrannosaurus Sex for nothing."
I mean, that's a Kennedy right there. I think.
Okay. That's
So great.
Well-
Tyrannosaurus Rex, it just feels like the sort of thing that you would say to try be impressive, but you've just been put on the spot and you're like, well, they don't call me shit, Tyrannosaurus Rex for nothing. Do we call you that?
Well, is it that it was an official name, but they weren't allowed to call him that for nothing? And like they had to pay like $50.
Who's the guy in the King's Speech?
That is King Edward the Eighth.
He was a bit of a saucy guy, wasn't he? He gave up the throne for lady.
love.
Yes, yeah, he did for Wallace Simpson.
Have you chosen these pictures so that because we can't see their arms, so that we can't see their tiny?
Yes. Yeah. So my thought about the Tyrannosaurus Rexes, I don't know if anyone else did this, but they made atrocious email addresses like early on in your life.
Yeah.
Really
Bagpipingrobot.com.
Is that yours?
Bagpipingrobot@hotmail.com.
Mine was Mr. Muscle John.
When you say was, you mean still is.
Okay, so to help the facilitating of casting of votes, and so people can't back out, I have printed out the 7 heads of all of the people
What are
on.
you feeling? Amazing. These heads.
Okay, and so you're going to need to choose a 7 head who said that quote.
Really? I have no opinion.
Okay.
I'm going to use the joke of it looks like the world's worst Tinder options.
Okay, I'm gonna push you guys for an answer on your
Okay.
side.
We're going with Kennedy.
Ted Kennedy.
Or T-Rex Kennedy is yours.
I don't imagine he would have mentioned the Tyrannosaurus Rex, but I want to believe in the saucy.
He definitely had them.
I think I agree with him because I haven't had an option to.
Okay, so that is the votes. Ted Kennedy is the correct answer. Ted Kennedy said this at a Halloween party when he was dressed as Barney the dinosaur.
So that takes confidence to say that in a Barney outfit. You've had a few eggnogs and you still walk up to someone and go,
I mean, once you're in the Barney outfit, anything else is fine. Once that's been your choice, it's just like downhill.
Okay, so the next quote is, only 2 rules really count. Never miss an opportunity to relieve yourself. Never miss an opportunity to sit down and rest your feet.
Well, we know we missed the opportunity to relieve ourselves in the past 20 minutes, so we'd be desperate to do so. I don't have an answer, but I mean, I thought it was quite an interesting factoid.
Well, everyone wanted to know that.
So somebody's saying take the chance to just put your feet up and
go to the bathroom.
Right, okay.
So another was Roosevelt wheelchair bound?
No, that was his distant cousin.
Okay.
Probably kills that.
That was Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
So my theory, I feel like it's got to be the King's Speech guy because Americans would say piss. Relieve is a very British word.
Okay, that's a.
I
Okay.
feel like that's it right there, and I don't know if I don't know who Theodora is actually.
She's the Byzantine Empress.
But I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
she-
they had relief back then.
She would have been on the toilet long enough to do this lovely mosaic. So take the time, put your feet up, and they're going, oh, here we go. This is the 8th hour you've done this today. This is fun. So she could have had the time to do it.
Except in those days, like toilets probably involved some kind of squatting, and so your feet probably weren't up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going on the mosaic.
Okay, let's move away from bathrooms and cast a vote. So you say Theodora.
We are.
Based on mosaicing, and I have no idea how long it takes. I mean, could you do that in a poop? I don't know.
Definitely.
Not actually in
And King's Speech, the answer is King's Speech.
Oh.
And by that I mean King Edward
Well,
the Eighth.
2 out of 2 is not bad.
Okay. So I got a lot of quotes for King Edward the Eighth, and I felt all of them inappropriate for a show because they all were very racist and very rude. So I decided not to use them, other than this one. Gore Vidal, who's a playwright. I mean, he might still go. Gore Vidal said of Edward VIII that he always had something of riveting stupidity to say on any subject. Here. Okay, moving on to our third quote. If you kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. some people in agreement, nudging their significant other.
And it's clearly the moustache guy about his second cousin or whatever.
He came much later than him. Like,
Oh.
Were there pants in Byzantine times? Were there pants? Would that be
they,
nice?
they definitely, possibly could have.
Ah.
Possibly, 100% maybe did.
I mean,
Would the person who said this have been kicked in the pants a few times? Because again, you can't see the pants, so I'm comfortable with that.
to be honest, that was one of my tricks. That was how
Oh, really?
because you could see they were like shoe marked.
And this is clearly someone who had a lot of trouble. I mean, that's the context of the quote. So
Yeah.
Well, I do know that Teddy Bear was based on Theodore
Teddy Bear.
Roosevelt, and
Who's
they
no
had
based on
pants.
that?
Well, I mean the bear, like the toy.
Oh.
Yeah. Did Teddy Bear have
Yeah.
pants?
So
Paddington doesn't.
Paddington does not
Is
have
he a teddy
pants.
bear?
He's a bear.
He's a bear.
Is he? I feel like we're getting derailed here.
The semantics of
How was your Tuesday night? I went to a show and they spoke about pants on bears for like 40 minutes. I don't know. It was okay, I
it was
guess.
an interesting theme for the show.
Final answer.
No, they would have had to. I think somebody who would have said this quote would have had to be in around the time. I'll take my earring off. Somebody around the time of printing diaries, because this is one of those perfect quotes for the year 2014. You'll read a diary,
Yes.
January. Oh, we believe in the stars, and then the
Believe
next
in the
day,
stars.
yeah, just you could kick the person in your pants, and you're like, well, I'm organising
I
a
should.
meeting, and okay, I guess this helps me.
Okay.
So it's close enough for a printed diary.
Okay.
That's
So
fine.
who is your vote?
Theodora.
Theodora.
Sorry, I wasn't listening to you.
Theodore Roosevelt.
We're going to go with him because we know that they're going to go with him, and he's so far behind.
And he's
Okay.
a huge diary.
All right. So you guys have a final
Yeah.
answer, saying Theodore as well. Both of you are correct. It is Theodore. Done? All right. This is quote number 4.
I am a Byzantine empress.
It's a really racist quote.
So
So
then-
I might be my head.
Okay. Every man born to see the light of day will die.
Must I?
Must die. That's what I meant.
I remember.
I mean, they
That's
sound
just a real
super
guy.
fun at parties. We're having Christmas, we're going to bring around old Byzantine right now. Here again.
She writes the
Oh,
worst
every-
poetry.
Yeah.
Doesn't rhyme,
Yeah,
it's
Every
super
man
lazy.
born to see the light of day must die.
Yeah. Just miserable.
Word.
But I mean, we've only got one more face then, so I'm going to put my
Well,
money
there's 5
on
quotes. I'm just saying that, so
Oh,
don't
plot
put all
twist.
your money on
Yeah.
it being heard.
plot twist.
It's a trick question. Obviously, he wants us to say the woman,
Okay.
but that's all I
Just
have.
got really
In the
quiet.
greater scheme of yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
so
we did really
we're going to
good.
get some answers going. Can you give me an answer?
I think
maybe this chap with a moustache, because he's seen some death in his time.
sure. Let's
And he looks hella bleak.
You
You see
realise
at
he
a
is a
party,
man.
you're not going to go, oh, I've got my friend Gordon.
we do have for half points.
Do you guys have a...
We're going to
We
go
have to,
for
yeah.
old cheerful Benzini because she's got that look in her eye going, who can I tell my poetry to?
So, Empress Theodora
That's
is
her
correct.
name.
Ah.
Back in it. This is history quiz points.
So I'm going to read the whole quote so you get it in a bit of context. She is a very interesting person because she started out life as a prostitute and eventually changed her life around and met the nephew of the emperor Justin. And
Emperor Justin.
Emperor Justin.
Very underwhelming, yeah.
Anyway, they had like a very egalitarian relationship for the time period, and he let her like have a lot of say, and she completely she changed a lot of rules pertaining to like how women were treated. It was illegal to force women into prostitution after she came into power. It was illegal to rape. It was also women were able to divorce. So it was quite a great move in terms of the empire.
And so in return, she wanted all men dead.
And in return, she wanted all men. No, so what happened was that there was these chariot factions called the Blues and the Greens, which is just a hilarious historical term for these people. And they had chariot races and they fought each other. And anyway, eventually they decided, no, we should actually turn against the emperor. And they had this massive revolt. And Justin was keen to leave. He said, "No, look, let's."
Guys, we've gone too far.
Biggest understatement in history. Yeah, there's some fighting going, I'm keen to leave. I could go now, I'm super tired.
So Theodora stood up and she gave this rousing speech. Whether a woman should give an example of courage to men is neither here nor there. At a moment of desperate danger, one must do what one can. I think that flight, even if it brings us to safety, is not in our interest. Every man born to see the light of day must die. But that one who has been emperor should become an exile. I cannot bear. May I never be without the purple I wear. That is fair.
Wait, she's giving this rousing speech and she still managed to bring her outfit into it.
It's beautiful.
It's neither here nor there if a woman or a man gives this speech. But, you know, believe in yourself, all of that. I'm just going to keep wearing something. So just so we know, this is my thing.
Okay, the final quote for this evening. There were all kinds of things I was afraid of at first, ranging from grizzly bears to mean horses and gunfighters. Who said it?
I'm going to go.
Grizzly bears, this guy, Teddy Bear.
Teddy Bear?
Grizzly, I'm speed poet rapping now, but I think it could have been this guy.
He went to Canada. Which of them went to Canada? Is that where they have grizzly bears, maybe?
Mine is not based on history. I just want to know how he goes from like grizzly bears, quite scary. Okay, I forget that comes out to you like
To mean horses.
gunfighters. You know, this is a serious situation. We're going to be shot. You know, we should need to get out of this. Just to like a mean horse.
Just not very nice. Can't have it round. for
Hasn't
dinner.
even necessarily hurt you. It's just getting a vibe. And it's just a bit judgy. And I just, this is what I mean.
Constantly like subtweeting you. Like, I just wish some people.
At course, I wish friends were faithful. Alright.
Okay, do you guys have a decision on your side?
We do.
Yeah, we did. Oh, you wanted to say it? It's this
No.
one.
Principal, so what you guys say?
Him, because he looks like he'd be offended by a horse.
Yeah.
And you're right, he is very offended by horses. He is the correct answer. Well done. At the end of the first round, the team on the right has 4 points and the team on the left has 3.
And in the greater scheme, none of it matters. So well done, everybody. Yes.
Except that
Nothing
extra point.
Okay, so now we move on to round 3. Round 2, actually. Steady myself there. Okay, this is called What Happens Next. The story is this, quite short. As part of a Nazi propaganda campaign, Goebbels begins a search for the perfect Aryan baby. What happens next?
Handsome.
Handsome.
I mean, the Mbop was the bombing.
Or if you play it back, that's like this message. My grandmother told us once we weren't allowed to watch gummy bears because if you played it back, it was satanic. And my mom was like, "Well, our video machine doesn't do that, so just don't worry about it." But
That's the blueprint for the TV show Idols.
Yeah.
it's
Maybe
oh
not.
yeah, maybe not.
Sound cool.
Does he find the baby and then there's 7 years of this brutal hardship?
That reference to
I mean,
raising a baby.
after they found the baby, there was several years of severe hardship across the world. But that's not the answer.
The German version of 2.5 Men. And then that's what started. There was a show with Goebbels and a baby.
Goebbels and Himmler.
Hey, what are you?
Eventually, one of them started taking too much drugs, so they got like a younger celebrity.
That's so great. Nine!
I don't want to ruin it, but I think I know the answer.
Okay, well that is great. Tell me what about it.
Is the baby Jewish?
That is the correct answer.
Yeah.
Wait. What?
Well, the baby ends up being Jewish and Goebbels was Nazi.
Oh, so they were finding a baby and then they were like, oh, plot twist, this is a huge mistake.
But they never realized until like much after the war.
So they gave the baby a
But
plot.
didn't he commit suicide?
No, I mean the Nazis, that already came out. Actually. Yeah, I don't mean Goebbels like much later. Looking down from heaven, looking down from hell. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that shortened the show probably.
No, that's great. It's not the child's name was Hesse Levinson's Taft, and that was her very cute.
Levinson, that feels like a clue.
Yeah. So what happened was the mother decided, hey, we should have a baby picture taken with our child. They were Jewish.
I saw that picture, like, what do you do to a baby to make, whoa. Ice down the back or something. I don't know.
Okay. So what happened was the photographer decided to put it in for the competition. He knew that they were Jewish, but he wanted to, quote, make the Nazis look ridiculous. His name is also Hans Borlen.
That's way funnier than I thought.
Yeah, so that's basically the story. Hissy Levinson's tap later said, I feel a little revenge, something like satisfaction. I can laugh about it now, but had the Nazis realized who I was, I would not be alive today. So it got like passed around, they made postcards of her, and everyone, like, whenever you had like a child, someone would send you this postcard saying, you know, Guten Tag, you know, bienvenue, and
Good job on the baby, but don't you wish it was this one?
Slightly-
Plan B.
slightly more Aryan Jewish looking. Cool, so that's after round 2. The scores are now tied.
Yay. Go us.
Well done, Dave. Cool, now we move on to round 3. This is called Who Am I Talking About? I'm going to give the panelists a few clues about a famous historical character, and they have to figure out who I'm talking about.
No.
Alright. Are you all set?
We are ready.
Okay, those are not an answer anymore.
Can I live?
You can live with
Enjoy
them.
them, you know. You've
Oh, yeah.
been to the mountain and everything, so.
Okay. So the first clue is this. He was given his own personal magician. How cool is that? Who would not accept a gift of a personal magician?
David Copperfield. What else can you do?
That's fine. I mean, unless he's delivering bad news, that'd be the worst way to be like, your mom's dead. That's a terrible, why would you tell me like that? Like, I had the dove. You do what you can.
Was he a pharaoh?
No, he's not a pharaoh.
Oh, okay. Was he a dog?
Was he, are we like super ancient history, or is this like a Michael Jackson who I'd imagine would?
It is.
Controversial.
It's modern.
Is it Michael
Modernish.
Jackson?
It's not Michael Jackson. It's not Michael. So this person took the personal magician into his confidence, and the personal magician would like tell him everyone's plotting to kill you. People don't like you actually, and turned out that people didn't like him.
When you say modern times, like last 100 years, last 500 years?
Last 100 years.
That's a great way to get that news though. I
And
mean, if it's written on a card that's like pulled in your back pocket, who's trying to kill me? And then it just burns into flames.
This is George Bush. And like, actually he was sitting reading the book the right way, and then suddenly like, "Wah."
Too soon.
Not.
So what
I
do you
think,
got?
I think African. I think the magician is African actually. But African is not really but from Africa. Okay, so the second clue is this. He received a UNESCO award for improving living standards in his country.
Did the magician help with that? Oh, that's so great.
That would be great. But
Like t-shirt cannons.
Yeah.
like potato cannons almost.
So the magician didn't help with improving living standards. It wasn't like a.
The magician was. I think the magician came after he improved the living standards.
Oh, right.
kill you unless you improve living.
It would be great. You get a new house, and it's not just they put it up and like, oh, yeah, the keys. You can know that there's one of those girls that are walking around and like, dun, dun, smash the window. Oh no, it's broken. It's not. I love magicians, obviously.
Is that
Yeah.
answer?
Is the award a surprise? Like, they're gonna be like, I wish we hadn't done that.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So Robert Mugabe type.
Yeah, but
Is
not
it
Robert
Robert
Mugabe.
Mugabe?
No.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to give you the third clue, which might help some people figure out who it is. Okay, this person was given the key to Detroit.
Batman.
Okay.
Is that from Detroit? That's 50 Cent. Is he from
Eminem?
Eminem.
Eminem was.
Okay, so
Rappers,
I'll tell you that the person wasn't from Detroit themselves. I'm going to tell you the other recipients of the key to Detroit, and it's not going to help you at all.
Good.
Other recipients include Sammy Davis Jr., the jazz musician, Elmo from Sesame Street and Santa Claus. So it seems like Detroit doesn't produce many like noteworthy people. So it's like makeup.
Was he European?
Is this guy real?
This person is very
This is not Sunny.
Just like all the other characters, Elmo, Father Christmas.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes, it's just here. These are all very real characters. Yeah. I don't believe in Sammy Davis Jr. You're gonna sit your 13-year-old kids down and go, Jazz isn't real. Sammy Davis Jr. What?
I just like the way I like the way MJ had to clarify Sammy Davis Jr. the jazz musician, as opposed to
Their friend Sammy
secretary.
Davis Jr. sitting everywhere. Very real. I just understand that.
Okay, I'm going to give you the fourth clue.
Please.
He had a Quran written in his own blood.
Ah.
So,
Like a very small Quran, or he was very dead.
no, so it took between 50 and 57 pints of blood to write the whole Quran. And
So
it was,
over a period of time, not at once.
no, yeah, so he organized someone to do it, and he obviously like had blood drawn to be able to write it in his. So it's not really legal in the Muslim community, and they obviously scorned it, and they decided, well, they got a quandary where they couldn't decide what to do because it's illegal to destroy a Quran, but it's also illegal to have a Quran written in your own blood.
Like they actually have that as a rule. Don't write this holy book in your blood.
Yes.
Like how many people do that before you have to?
Yeah.
Like, we've got to stop them.
Nice, chill out.
It's like going to a public pool and you see a sign that says people with diarrhea shouldn't swim. Like, where? Why do we need a sign?
Why is it
for
like
that?
that?
I was about to go for a dip, but now we've established this seemed like a good idea at first,
Sure.
and then just deteriorated rapidly.
I believe these people with their rules.
Did he have a beard?
Can I live?
Does he have a beard?
He had like a shortcut beard, yeah.
Donald Trump? Do you
Yeah, but
Coffee?
think about people who are Islamic and who would have Qurans written in their own blood. Surprise, surprise.
This seems like super controversial areas.
Was it
We're
famous
gonna
to
say
be like a wild card Osama bin Laden?
It's not Osama bin Laden, but you're very close.
Saddam Hussein.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
No, we shouldn't.
Did they still? I mean, is that still something like they still have it? Is it on eBay?
I don't actually know what happened, but there is a lot of stuff of his that's on eBay. One of his personal aides took like a lot of stuff that was left over after he was executed, and has now decided to raise funds for hospitals and schools in the area, so that they can like restore the damage that they did. Which
I'm
I
just
think is
impressed that you know that.
I like how that doesn't get a clap. Like
Diarrhea swimming pool. Save that.
One hilarious anecdote of his, well, hilarious, it's okay. Brace yourselves for, that's okay. He offered to give the American government $94 million to help with all their poor people. It's like a bit of a rib at George W.
That was okay.
It wasn't hilarious.
Yeah.
I was right to.
Even okay with a strong word.
It's,
Yeah,
it's
factually
a story.
sound, I guess. Yeah. Sounds that you know things.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going to move on to round 4 now. But before we do that, the scores are 4 to the team on the left and 5 to the team on the right. So well done, everyone. Cool, now we move on to round 4. Round 4 is called Did That Actually Happen? And what we're going to do at this point is each team member is now going to read out a story that's either factually correct or completely made up. And the opposing team has to figure out whether what has been said is actually true. I'm going to start with Graeme.
Thank you very much for the honor. Do I stand? No.
Keep it informed, keep it casual.
Okay.
Keep it casual.
Okay, well, this is a true story about the 33rd. No, I'm kidding. Listen, no, it's true, man. Which brings me to my story. The true story of the 33rd President of the United States, Harry S. Truman, and how he got his middle name. As everyone knows, Harry S. Truman was born in Lamar, Missouri, at the age of 0 in 1884. Less well-known fact, however, is that he was conceived somewhere totally different, in Saitama, Japan, a mere 9 months earlier. It's for this reason that Truman was given a Japanese middle name. Saito, of which he was rather fond. After all, it's not like he was about to become president, and it's not like the USA and Japan were at war. Many years later, Harry Truman was about to become president. The USA and Japan were at war. This was a problem for young Harry, now 61, as the American public would never accept a president with a Japanese middle name while hostilities in the Pacific were ongoing. Taking matters into his own hands, Truman surreptitiously changed his name to the much more American-sounding Seymour, winning the hearts and minds of the nation and winning the war by cheating a bit at the end. And that's my story. I had a very bad punchline, but it was really bad. So
Okay. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I mean, till Seymour. I mean, that sounds brilliant. That's not really a question.
Well, that's like throws it. I'll believe it. But the Seymour, I don't know.
Any questions, Andrew?
I just have to say Seymour Butts, because that's just
Sorry.
just the top of my head. Did he like Japan? Do you know anything about it?
Well, why was he
Does
born
he
there?
like sushi?
because he was conceived there, his parents went on holiday to Saitama, Japan, which I looked up.
Which is lovely this time of year and very,
It is very
it's a
lovely.
great place to have a baby apparently. So, conceive a baby. Make a baby, sorry.
Well, now that you're done with the question, you've thrilled me here. Please no more.
It feels like a Princess Bride moment because I feel like he dropped the word true in so many times to make us think it's false. But did he do that to make us think it's false because it's actually true? I'm leaning towards true. I feel like it's a great story. And
Yeah.
it's a bit unbelievable, which is a good thing for truth to have. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think we'll go true.
You're gonna go true?
Yeah.
Graham, is the story true or
You
not?
guys are total idiots. No, it's not true at all. In fact, his middle name, he doesn't have a middle name. The S stands for nothing. His parents panicked when he was born and wanted to give him an initial, so they gave him S.
Okay, we're gonna now move on to Brett. If you could tell us your
Sure.
true or false story.
So the term Renaissance man comes from the 15th century Italy and refers to the idea of a person with knowledge and skills in a number of different areas. Perhaps no single individual defines the idea of a Renaissance man better than Leonardo da Vinci, an artist, scientist, architect, engineer, and inventor.
Mhm.
Though most famous for his works of art, his detailed sketches and distinct artistry played a large role in his inventions, and his sketchbooks later provided evidence that Da Vinci had envisioned many ideas long before the technology to build them actually existed. Okay, you probably heard about his helicopter prototype idea that was called the aerial screw, as well as his ideas for the parachute, a giant crossbow, and an armored car. But did you know that he came up with the idea for scuba gear?
So when you asked, did you know it? False, we did not know it. Are you asking, is it true that we did know it? It's not true that it's... Yeah, exactly. I was a linguistics undergraduate first year and I dropped out of it.
Is that your final
So
answer?
therefore an expert.
It's not an answer, it's a question. So,
Okay,
you
so
so did he-
one
did
of
he
the
make-
things that he invented was scuba gear.
Uh-huh.
Did he
Is
invent
my
scuba?
story.
He just seems like the sort of guy that's like, it's so long ago that he was probably okay. Like he was pretty good, but because it's just been so long, they just found all these drawings and they attribute to him, and it's like it was kind of a helicopter, right? I mean, it probably killed 14 people because it didn't really work, and it was like. But now that we look back, we're like, oh, he's a genius and all of that. So they probably found something that he just drew some circles and like a fish because he's like, oh, what do you want? I'll have a fish. And then next thing they find is he invented scuba gear. And he's like, oh, no, I just had some fish for dinner and I drew a man and that's what I'm doing. I don't know if he couldn't have thought of all those things, right? I mean, he couldn't have. Everyone thinks he did? I've hit a sore point. Everyone is like, I'm here for a good time. Everyone ain't fine. I'm a Renaissance man. Leonardo da Vinci. I am done. My opinion is, it might be wrong and publicly unpopular, but that he didn't, I don't think he did.
I disagree. I think...
With
the crowds.
Well, we haven't asked the question really yet. I just want to ask, what did he call it? Did he call it scuba gear? Because I mean, that's an English acronym. That would be very weird. An Italian man from the 15th.
Well, I think most of his inventions were kind of like precursors for. So it didn't actually have the title self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. But he was working in Venice at the time, around 1500s, and so he invented this thing that became known as scuba gear. There was an animal version. And he did it to.
It didn't work.
He designed it for sneak attacks on ships underwater, so that they could attack ships underwater.
It's good, isn't it? It's good.
Was it? Do you know what it sort of looked like? Was it like
Kind of.
Was it just a bowl and he was like, oh, really funny bowl, and then you just do scuba diving, and or was it like a here's a thing that holds air and you breathe? Or
Well, there was like a thing, and there were tubes that went to the surface and were held by a thing.
if it's just a bowl, I invented scuba gear. I mean, you went swimming, you put a bucket on you, and you dive in the pool, and you're like, I'm a genius. There's nothing can stop me. So maybe he just did that, and was it drawing? Was it like a thing, complicated system, or a very basic?
Well, there's like
pocket of air?
breathing tubes that went to the surface where the air was.
I watched Shark Tank, and if you start going, breathing tube, I'm out.
So what do we want?
I say it's a try. A try. If you get this conversion, you win. I say it's a lie. That's my only even.
We can go with that. Yeah. No.
Okay, so they're saying lie. Is it true or lie?
So Leonardo da Vinci, it was a leather diving suit. It was equipped with a bag-like mask that went over the diver's head, attached to the cork diving bell, floating on the surface, and there was a pouch for the diver to pee in. It is absolutely true.
Wow. Okay. I take back from the ghost of Leonardo da Vinci that I said he put a bucket on his head and we attribute.
But the helicopter didn't work, to be fair.
Yeah, we did a lot more than I did. I put a bucket on my head. This was like
Look
this
at
week.
you now.
I was like, this week, I was like, I'm inventing.
Okay, so JP, could you tell
Alright,
us your
right.
trip
So did that really happen? Right up until 1901, which is very recent, there was a position in the royal entourage that was actually quite respected, called the groom of the king's close stool. You can see where this is going. As far as bad jobs go, this was the crappiest. Pause for laughter. Thanks very much. So the position evolved out of something called the yeoman of the stool. It was created by Henry VI, who got a new chair, a stool, legitimately got a stool, and and this guy, the groom of the stool, was expected to carry the king's stool, chair, with him at all times in case the king wanted to pass a stool, not chair. It took me very long to write that one. He'd have water, towels, and a wash bowl, and in order to stay properly organized, he'd keep track of the king's eating habits, so he would know, oh, we got a bit of a curry, I can't go out tonight, I'm going to stay here. Literally a fart could change his whole schedule. So the position was awarded to sons of, no, it was very respected though. So the position was often awarded to sons of noblemen and came with great perks and high pay, because it was after all a very, intimate moment. It's not just like, it's a very hell of a thing. So it was after all the royal office that gained the most intimate access to the king himself. It was such a big deal that the royal turd wrangler, I said it too soon. It was a big deal being the royal turd wrangler until it was eventually abolished by King Edward VII in 1901. Like I said, when he finally decided it was a bit weird having to make eye contact with a grown man who just watched you poop. So the groom of the stool, it was the royal flush of jobs. Everyone, is that true? Yeah, moderate.
Do you guys have any questions?
Did you say he was the yo-man? The yo-yo-man?
It was
Yo!
Yo, man. No, he was the king's hype man. He'd walk in and be like, yo, my boy's going for a poop, man! Poop say! No, it was the yeoman of the stool. And I immediately thought it was because he was the guy fetching the stools, but it was because of the
Like,
chair.
is this still taken, kind of thing?
The king needs to sit and, oh no, actually it's reserved.
So no, the thing is, up until that point you'd have a chamber pot and whatever. So the king Edward VI got a stool that had a hole in the bottom and a chamber. It was quite revolutionary because I was like, oh, that's great. That's a great thing. So
That's
you
what we
can
need.
carry
We've been
my
sitting
chair.
on these stools without holes in them.
our pants. I just that was their biggest problem because they were just like, where does it go? And then but no, he legitimately got a stool with a hole in. And this also is again one of those inventions like a bucket on your head that just seems someone's like, oh, we've got a hole there, and they're like, we got a bucket stool, and then it was very respected. But so because like with all titles in England, it just went on forever until 1901 when somebody was like, almost a bit weird, isn't it? So that's when it stopped. 1901. They had radio, didn't they? When was radio invented?
No, they must have had toilets by then. And so that guy's literally just standing in the corner waiting.
It is the worst though. It is the worst if you go into like a posh restaurant and to use the facilities and there's like a man standing there watching and they've got like a towel just like waiting.
You don't have to let him into the stall. It's going to be weird for us both. Get my money's worth and get a peppermint off.
So you're not
real.
true or false?
I've got it. I think it's true. Yeah. It sounds too ridiculous to not be true.
Is it true or
Yo,
false?
man.
And it is true. There was a guy called King of the Stools.
An NBC sitcom coming out.
Alright, finally we move to Andrew.
Okay. Britain is a land of many strange traditions. Some we've heard of, such as Morris dancing. Some we've avoided, such as bog snorkeling. But among the strangest of all British traditions is cheese hurling. The cheese hurling gala takes place in Dover, Kent, every 25th of October, and dates back to the famous English victory over the French at the Battle of Agincourt in 1415 on said day. When the folks back home in England heard of the victory, they collected all the foreign food they could find, a large portion of which was cheese, and threw it off the cliffs as a joyous sign of victory and defiance. The modern day event requires contestants to stand in line by the cliff's edge and hurl an assortment of French cheeses back towards France. The prizes are awarded both for the total amount of cheese hurled in a minute and also for the furthest distance achieved. An additional award goes to the person who can spit their cheese into a small tub at the cliff's base. In today's cheese hurling contest, no overt aggression towards the French is shown, except for a reminder on the spit tub, which is painted red, white, and blue stripes.
I thought this was going to be the cheese wheel thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
on the internet, there's those hilarious pictures of sort of people with their two legs in the air and there's a cheese wheel and they're running after a big Gouda or something. But I don't know, I haven't heard of people just throwing cheese into the sea towards what sort of event would that be? Just on your marks, get to start throwing?
It's more of an individual contest. So you have to, one person will win the various events. It's not like a team of cheese throwers. I can give you Tom Shufflebottom was last year's winner.
I really hope that's a real thing.
So he won the furthest distance with 186 meters.
Which cheese?
But yeah,
Don't know.
probably not fitter.
Andy Lowe.
Girly.
Yeah.
Andy Lowe won the weight category. In a minute, he managed to throw 57 pounds of cheese, which is about 26 kilograms.
And is it good cheese? Where does this cheese come from? What counts as cheese?
So the thing originated. They would just throw any cheese they could find that was foreign, and today they don't use like special fancy cheese. That would be too expensive.
Yeah, right. That would be an outrage. Throwing soft brie off a cliff somewhere would be like, actually maybe not. Just get crackers.
Did it originate straight after the Battle of Agincourt?
Well, I guess as soon as the news of the victory came back to the people in England.
But surely they wouldn't be that resentful if they just won the battle. It'd be more like, bring your cheese. Yeah. I don't know what I'll do.
This is great battle cry.
You've literally
Bring
never
your
been in a
cheese.
war situation. Right? Bring your cheese. We'll bring wine. You bring cheese. We'll just sort it out again.
So I think there were because the Battle of Agincourt basically was an English army against a numerically superior French army. So it was quite a big victory, and it was just a sign of joy and defiance.
But is
I
it
don't
true
think-
or is it false?
I just can't imagine a world where I'd willingly throw cheese away.
Especially in the 16th century, you're starving, you got nothing, you're just living in muck.
Yeah. Go you have to throw cheese away.
I think we're saying false.
Yeah,
Say
false.
Yeah.
They would have held on to that cheese.
Yeah, for sure.
Andrew, is it true or false?
It is false. However, the only truth in that was the name Tom Shufflebotham. and he takes part in the noble art of worm charming. The village of Williston near Nantwich, Cheshire, is the place where since 1980 the annual World Championships of worm charming have been organised. The competition was actually initiated by a local man, Tom Shufflebotham, who on the 5th of July 1980 charmed 511 worms from the ground in only half an hour.
How do you charm them out of the ground? Hello, that's wormy, aren't you?
Long. Alright, so at the end of that round, the scores are 6 points to my team on the left and 7 points to my team on the right. I'm going to give each team the answer to a question. What they need to do is tell me the question.
Yeah,
What's the question? Okay. Makes sense. The answer is 39 minutes, but what is the question?
How much time would we have left over if we set aside 40 minutes for lovemaking? How that relates to history is because it would be historic.
41 minutes short of England's remaining World Cup campaign.
Oh. That hurts, but it hurts me particularly because I'm scratching that one up. Is it another word for 2,340 seconds? And if you
We
get
have
that
to
wrong,
work that out.
Yeah, I don't have the maths ability.
Is it the appropriate Is it the appropriate wait time before an incoming American president has to wait before he can ask about aliens and if they're real? So, welcome, Mr. President.
But guys,
For real though, where's that file? Is this real?
I've been to Roswell.
I want to say, I think I know this one. Is it the Judas Iscariot itinerary for the Last Supper?
Oh, guys, gotta leave.
Because if you take 39 minutes, you divide it by 3, you get 13. There were Jesus and 12 disciples at the Last Supper. 3 minutes is how long it takes to boil an egg. So, we know about the bread and the wine, but we don't hear a lot about the last omelette.
That's quite sad. That's alright.
Am I close?
You are on the cusp of a completely different.
Is it the amount of time that it takes Jay-Z to sort out his 99 problems?
Would take way longer, but it ain't one.
Yeah.
So that's really fun. Is it, that's a rap song.
Just such
Yeah, is it, is it? I don't know.
Is it the length of a war?
Yes.
The 39 minutes.
39 minutes.
7-year-ish war.
I think at the point that is the answer.
wait, that's not right. Is it right?
It is right.
Oh, you looked it up.
That's the premise of the show. He organised this question.
One of us has to know
Well,
the
yeah,
answer.
it's like cutting guys like, life. What is the question? Okay, so that is. It is the shortest war in history. It was fought between England and Zanzibar in 1896.
Who won?
Zanzibar fought valiantly. They won in the amount of people deceased in the war. They had 500 people killed, while the British sustained 1 injury.
Stained.
Sustained.
Oh.
They sustained 1 injury.
I thought his guy was there.
So what happened in 1896 is that the pro-British Sultan of Zanzibar died, and there was a clause in the Zanzibari constitution saying that the British get to decide whoever's Sultan. But the Zanzibari guys were like, no, let's a guy who isn't pro-British be the Sultan. And they were like, no, look, it's not right. And they sent an ultimatum saying, we're going to go to war with you if you don't change Sultan to the one we actually want. And the Sultan said, no, I'm staying Sultan. I don't know if he assumed they wouldn't attack, but he just barricaded himself and they just brought all their ships to Zanzibar. 39 minutes later, they won the war.
That's already insult.
Yeah.
Plenty of fun of parking in 39 minutes and then one more. Drive around town going, one more spin. 39 minutes are pretty impressive.
The longest war, however, was fought between who? Does anyone know?
England and France, with little bits of cheese being chucked
although it's a little bit pedantic, but it's between Sicily and Netherlands. The war lasted 335 years, which is very long, if you don't know how long that is. It was basically a legal state of war. No one ever got shot or shot at.
They sent like angry letters.
They never said anything.
Yeah, like Fingered Helder.
The war only legally ended in 1986. That's how long this ended. So,
Who won?
I think Netherlands. I think they.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Who got that iPad?
I don't know. I didn't check. All right. Moving on to our last round for this evening.
Some homework for you there. Check that out.
This is against Sicily,
Sicily and Netherlands.
so they got the boot.
All right. Moving on to the final round for this evening. Round 6. Unlikely pairs. I'm going to give our contestants 2 things, and they need to figure out how they're linked together. All right. This evening's unlikely pairs are monkeys and politics.
That writes itself.
I mean, the famous American President Abraham Lincoln.
That's so good. Everyone go on.
So I've got a theory about this. I think monkeys, if a monk needs to get into a hermitage, he needs his keys. An aged hermit would have lots of lice and fleas and ticks on him. And the Greek word for many is poly, so you've got polyticks connected through hermitage to monkeys.
Very good.
Imagine
That
Straight
would,
on the monk.
Is it the band, the monkeys?
it's not the band. It's the.
My.
So is it actual real monkeys and actual people politics?
It's actual real politics.
So not. I mean, it is based on a real monkey, but how it relates to politics is not. It's a mascot. By this point, it reaches politics.
This isn't that, but there was a story. I mean, I did Latin for 100 years. There was a story of I think it was an emperor, Roman emperor, maybe even Caligula, who made one of his animals, probably a horse, into a senator.
A mean horse.
No, it wasn't.
That's what
where they got that
that's worried
attitude.
about.
So is it something like that where it must be Britain, I feel, where they took monkeys and made them officially in Parliament or something?
MPs.
Is it because?
do
Oh,
that.
sorry.
No, I just got a really good joke about the monkeys, the band, and I really wanted to say it.
Tell us a joke.
Yes, please, thank you. I looked it up on the internet. My ex-girlfriend actually left me because of my love for the band, the Monkeys. I thought she
That was a
wasn't
good joke.
serious. And then I saw her face. Because they did the song. Wasn't it? It's the last round, isn't it?
Is it because controversial politicians, since they have so much spare time on their hands because they're not, doing much, they just thought, it'd be great, monkeys in little outfits, and they just Parliament somewhere in either England or wherever it is, they just had monkeys in suits, and politicians would be like, that's a fun thing to do, let's do that today.
Okay.
And so just monkeys in suits, and that's what we're doing instead of like, well, we'll do the Constitution later, but look at this guy. And then
Is that on track?
No, it's not on track. I'm going to give you another clue. Football, as in soccer.
Do they have an all-person versus all-monkey team?
Amazing. I wish that was true. No, it's not. I'm gonna start moving you towards the answer. During the Napoleonic Wars, a French ship crashed into a part of England called Hartlepool, and everyone died on board except a monkey who was left on the ship. And because the people of Hartlepool had never seen a Frenchman,
They challenged him to a game
or
of
they'd
football.
never seen a monkey, they assumed it to be a French spy.
They're cheese at it.
Not necessarily wrong.
Yeah, it could be. So in order to check, they imprisoned it and took it to court. And because the monkey never responded to any of its charges, they executed it, sadly. This grew up as a legend in Hartlepool. And today the Hartlepool Football Club mascot is a monkey called H. Angus. Okay, but now we're going to start moving towards the
Is that
politics.
the answer?
So that's not the answer.
That was impressive.
Was there time when like the guy running for power died or wasn't there? There was no one against him, and so they let the mascot run.
Yes, there's
The
that
mascot
penguin.
won.
No.
That would be a good story.
There's a penguin. I saw things on the internet. Show me a picture on the internet of an animal, and I'm like, okay, love
Penguin.
it. There's a penguin who they've made. He's like a admiral or a something, and they all line up and they hold their guns up, and then he just walks down the carpet, and it's completely ridiculous, but it's fantastic, and people like go mad to see this penguin just waddle down the aisle, and they're like, he's in people clothes. That's crazy. Is that so? They've got the mascot. And I thought, you know, the football team's got one. Parliament has one now. Monkey in the suit. I really wanted to be a monkey in the suit. Like a penguin.
Sorry, I'm really sorry about the suits.
Not so
A
much.
public holiday.
Public holiday? No. So public holiday. Oranges.
It's trying to get warmer. Carry on.
Okay. So they decided to start having mascots at the Hartlepool Football Club games, and one of the guys was called Stuart Drummond, and he kept getting thrown out of the football stadium because he was really drunk and like lewd, and he like
really
brought like
hairy
inflated.
and, like long arms.
Yeah. No, so
Like
he
couldn't
wouldn't
get away from the ladder.
Yeah. Wouldn't respond. He's just.
So he dressed up as the monkey, as H. Angus, but he like often like take inflatable dolls into the stadium, and he was a bit like quite a crass guy. Eventually, and this is now I'm going to kind of give the answer away. He decided to enter politics, and what he did was he got the Hartlepool.
Oh.
That's the mascot. That is
Terrifying.
Stuart Drummond in action there, and he convinced the football club to pay for his becoming the mayor of Hartlepool. They'd never had a mayor before. In a very close race, Stuart Drummond became the mayor of Hartlepool. In his campaign, he promised to give children free bananas. Was his campaign promise, but he actually never gave. He just increased the number of fruits because he couldn't afford to give all the children free bananas.
Also, what were they like? Oh, I'm more of an apple person. Thanks, but yeah.
So as he entered politics, he decided to step down as mascot of Hartlepool, and in like his leaving speech, he said, "I am Stuart Drummond. I am the mayor of Hartlepool, not the monkey."
Which he had to clarify. Remember.
The next person who was the mascot was a woman called Kerry Anderson, who was given the job after her child encouraged her to become the mascot. And her final remark, as she took the throne as the mascot of Hartlepool, she said, "I came into the job because I'm a Hartlepool fan, not because I'm interested in starting a career in politics." Which I quite like, is it? Like, you know, the way to become a mayor in Hartlepool is not to become a drunken mascot. Convince them to pay for your.
But I mean, if your child comes to you and goes, like, I really think, you know, let's just have a sit down, talk around what I believe for you and what is best for your life. You could dress up as a monkey, Mom. You should really do that as a career.
But I'm a
surely she must have gone like, yeah. I'm a hot embarrassed. No, for real though. Mom.
Just think about it.
Yeah, you love bananas. Look at those arms. Just do it. Just do it. Good. Yeah.
Well, that brings us to the end of the show. I'm just needing to tell you the scores, and I can tell you that it is close, but inevitable.
Yeah, but you still got to award the spirit points.
The spirit point is definitely awarded to the team on the left. It's awarded to the team on the right. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. I hope you enjoyed this evening. We'll see you all downstairs. So thank you so much for joining us.
Vai ser aquele bike,